NASA has just sounded a red alert. The James Webb Telescope, our golden eye 1 million miles from Earth, has detected something so shocking that scientists are holding back details, even from their closest colleagues. Some whisper it's a signal, others fear it's a warning, and a few insist it's a discovery too dangerous to share. One thing is certain, whatever Webb captured changes everything we thought we knew about the cosmos. So, what did it really see and why is NASA afraid? Picture this, a machine unlike anything humanity has ever sent into the void. The James Webb Space Telescope, a shimmering marvel of engineering, drifting 1 million miles away from Earth, far beyond the shadow of our own planet. Its golden mirrors gleam like a giant jewel, each hexagon polished to a perfection so fine it could reflect the faintest whisper of starlight. Imagine a diamond the size of a tennis court unfolding in slow motion, its panels locking into place with the precision of a master watchmaker. Every curve, every surface, designed not just to look beautiful, but to pierce the ancient veil of time itself. When Webb was launched, it wasn't merely a telescope, it was a promise. A promise to look further than Hubble ever could, to capture the very first sparks of creation. Engineers called it a time machine. Astronomers whispered that it would finally reveal the cosmic dawn, the birthplaces of stars and galaxies that lived and died long before Earth was even dust. To many, it felt like the ultimate luxury. The ability to look back 13 billion years, as if the universe had been saving its deepest secrets for this exact moment in history. But here's the thing about promises, they rarely unfold the way we expect. Webb was built to seek beauty in the ordinary. Galaxies forming, stars igniting, planets circling. It was a jewel meant to polish our understanding, to refine what we already knew. And yet, sometimes, when you shine a flawless lens into the unknown, you don't find elegance, you find disruption. Something that doesn't fit, something that shouldn't exist. Because what Webb caught in its gaze wasn't a star, a planet, or even a galaxy. It was something far stranger. At first, the data looked like a glitch, a strange shimmer buried in the noise, almost like static on an old television screen. But Webb doesn't make mistakes. Not with instruments so precise they can measure the heat of a single bumblebee from nearly 1 million miles away. As the images sharpened and the readings repeated, one truth became undeniable. This was no error. Something was out there, something no telescope had ever recorded before. It wasn't a star. Stars flicker, flare, and burn. It wasn't a planet, either no familiar orbit, no comforting path around a host sun. Instead, Webb had locked onto a pulse, a repeating rhythm, steady and deliberate, echoing from a corner of the sky thought to be empty. Imagine sitting in a silent room and suddenly hearing a knock, measured, consistent, impossible to ignore. That's what the scientists saw written in Webb's golden mirrors. Even stranger was its signature. Light carries fingerprints, wavelengths that reveal what an object is made of, how fast it's moving, even its temperature. But this pulse didn't carry the fingerprint of anything natural. No hydrogen clouds, no stellar gases, no trace of the cosmic ingredients that normally paint the universe. Instead, the spectrum looked manufactured, as though someone or something had tuned it on purpose. The deeper the team probed, the more unsettling the details became. The pattern wasn't random. It had structure, like a coded message or a signal meant to be recognized. And with every passing hour, more data poured in, confirming the impossible. This wasn't a fleeting anomaly. It was deliberate, persistent, real. And the deeper scientists looked, the more terrifying it became. When the first whispers of the anomaly reached the desks of NASA's top scientists, the reactions weren't excitement, they were unease. Dr. Karen Holt, one of the mission leads, was said to have stared at the data for hours in silence before finally muttering, "This isn't natural." Others tried to stay composed, framing it as an unusual but explainable phenomenon. Yet behind closed doors, emails leaked later showed a far sharper tone. Words like urgent, unprecedented, and potentially destabilizing. The official statements that made it to the public sounded safe, almost rehearsed. Webb is observing an anomaly in deep space. Further analysis is required before drawing conclusions. Polished, measured, careful. But off the record, astrophysicists admitted to sleepless nights. Imagine dedicating your life to decoding the universe, only to stumble on something that feels like it's decoding you. That was the weight in their voices. Independent researchers added fuel to the fire. One European astronomer described the signal as eerily intentional, while a Harvard theorist compared it to hearing your name whispered in a crowded room. Even those who tried to dismiss it as interference found themselves trapped by the data. The precision, the rhythm, the persistence. Nothing about it behaved like background noise. And then came the divide. Some scientists urged restraint, don't call it artificial, don't jump to conclusions. Others argued that hiding behind cautious language was dishonest, even dangerous. The public deserved to know. Debates erupted across labs, conferences, and late-night phone calls, splitting even the most respected voices. When the brightest minds in the world look at the same evidence and can't agree, you know you're standing at the edge of something extraordinary. But while the official statements stayed safe, the whispers off-record painted a very different picture. The whispers quickly gave way to theories, wild, competing, electrifying. The first and most sensational? That the signal was artificial. Some argued it carried the hallmarks of intention, a rhythm too precise, a frequency too deliberate to be born from collapsing stars or drifting gas clouds. To them, it looked like a beacon, an interstellar handshake. If this is artificial, one researcher said, it's not just astronomy anymore. It's communication. But the skeptics countered with another possibility. Maybe it wasn't intelligence, but physics itself rewriting the rules. The universe still hides forces we barely understand. Dark matter, dark energy, cosmic phenomena that outnumber our theories 100-fold. Perhaps this pulse was a ripple in the unknown, like hearing thunder before ever knowing what lightning was. If true, Webb might not have uncovered aliens, but something even bigger, a missing chapter in the book of reality. And then came the third, darker theory. What if it was neither message nor mystery, but a threat? A moving object, massive, invisible in ordinary light, broadcasting a warning signature as it cut across the void. If so, the pulse wasn't meant for us at all. It was simply the sound of something enormous on the move. Imagine standing on a beach and feeling a vibration in the sand long before the wave crashes in. That's how some scientists described it, an omen, not an invitation. The theories ignited arguments on television panels, in late-night podcasts, across Reddit threads and Twitter storms. Was it life reaching out? Nature breaking its silence? Or danger announcing its arrival? The answers split scientists, storytellers, and dreamers alike, fueling a debate that still burns today. But then, just as speculation reached fever pitch, the mystery deepened. Because the anomaly did something no one predicted. At first, the anomaly seemed frozen, steady in its pulse, like a heartbeat echoing across the void. But then, quietly, almost imperceptibly, it shifted. The signal's rhythm began to change, bending into patterns no one had anticipated. Scientists refreshed their instruments, triple-checked calibrations, even swapped out algorithms, convinced it was a technical error. It wasn't. The pulse wasn't static. It was evolving. Imagine listening to a metronome tick perfectly for hours, then, out of nowhere, hearing it speed up, slow down, pause, like someone tapping it with intention. That's what Webb recorded. A cosmic beat transforming into something far too complex to dismiss as noise. And then came the moment that froze every researcher in their chair. The pattern aligned with something achingly familiar. The spacing, the intervals, it echoed frequencies we use here on Earth. Radio-like bursts, eerily reminiscent of signals we once sent out into space ourselves. The room fell silent. Was this mimicry, coincidence, or something reflecting us back at ourselves? For decades, humanity had whispered into the stars. Voyager's golden record, SETI's radio transmissions, countless pings sent into the dark. But what Webb captured wasn't just an echo. It was as though the universe had finally answered, speaking in a rhythm we might one day understand. The twist wasn't only in the pulse. The location of the source began to shift. At first it seemed fixed, a lighthouse beaming from a single corner of the cosmos. But over days, the source moved. It slid against the cosmic background, as if drifting, or perhaps navigating, toward a destination. One calculation shocked mission control. If its trajectory held, it was heading closer to us. Think of driving down a lonely road at night, headlights stretching into darkness. Suddenly, in your rearview mirror, you notice another pair of lights. At first, distant, then closer, then unmistakably following you. That creeping realization that you're not alone, and whatever is behind you knows you're there, hung over the scientists like a storm cloud. And that's when NASA raised the red alert. Because whatever Webb had seen was no longer a passive discovery. It had become active. It was moving. And for the first time, humanity had to ask not what it had found in the universe, but what in the universe had found us. The implications were staggering. If the signal was intelligent, then humanity had just crossed the threshold we've dreamed of for centuries. First contact. Not in the form of a flying saucer landing on a lawn, but in a mathematical pulse drifting through space, precise enough to demand interpretation. It would mean we are no longer alone, that someone else has been waiting, watching, perhaps even listening. And yet, that idea brought as much fear as wonder. If it wasn't intelligence but a phenomenon of nature, the stakes might be even higher. An unknown force rewriting the rules of physics could upend everything from our models of the universe to the technologies we rely on every day. It would be like realizing gravity had a hidden side effect, one that might reshape not just science but survival itself. And then came the darkest possibility, that the moving source wasn't a message at all. It was a warning, a threat, something vast cutting across the galactic stage, its pulse a byproduct of motion or power. If true, we might not have discovered the universe. The universe might have discovered us. Because the real question isn't what Webb found. It's what happens when it answers back. The James Webb Telescope was meant to be our crown jewel, a triumph of science, a golden mirror reflecting the earliest sparks of creation. Yet in its gaze, it may have uncovered something that feels less like history and more like destiny. For the first time, humanity is standing at the edge of an answer to the question that has haunted us since we first looked up at the night sky. Are we alone? But maybe the answer is stranger than we imagined. Maybe we are not just observers of the cosmos. We are participants in a story far bigger than ourselves. If the pulse is a message, then someone out there is reaching across light years, not with ships, but with rhythm and resonance. If it's a force of nature, then the universe itself is far more alive and dynamic than any textbook could capture. And if it's a threat, then this moment may be the quiet warning before the storm. What do you believe Webb really found? Was it life, was it science, or was it danger? Leave your theory in the comments. I'll be reading them. And if you want to stay with me on this journey into the unknown, subscribe now, because this is only the beginning.